Okay, well, welcome everybody. Hello. Great. Well, my name is Dale Smith. I'm Director of Creation for Bridge Training and Events. And I'll just want to give a quick little intro to get you kind of thinking about a few things I'm going to be talking about tonight. Anybody who gets to know me knows that I like to tell a lot of stories. Any people who've attended BridgeTalks here in the past? So you probably have to give fresh stories this time.
Yes.
Yeah. I did a presentation this morning and some of the delegates are here. Hello ladies. And as I was telling the group this morning is I never really prepare what I'm going to say until I really get on stage. So I've got slides, but I never really know what I'm going to say. Because I really believe that we should be kind of always constantly in flux, thinking about new things, finding new ideas with every turn that we make. That's a really interesting chair you're sitting in. It does. It's all tilted this way. It's okay. If you fall over, we'll put you back up again. But it's very much about being in flux at all times and looking around stories everywhere we go. I love stories. I've been very fortunate over the last 2 weeks that my mom came from Canada and we got some great time to spend together. And I know where I get it from. Boy, the woman can talk. And boy, the woman can tell a good story. Mostly I'm the protagonist in it. However, the woman loves a good story. And it really began getting me thinking. But before I start anything about storytelling, I wanted to just do a little bit of housekeeping for the room. Now, anybody who attended the last one, we started talking about what Bridge is going to be doing from kind of this point forward. We want to be doing some great research around culture and brand. So we're launching an online survey to start. And so we will be getting an email from us, anybody who attends, asking you to fill in this survey for us. It's through Changeboard magazine, and we're doing a large culture survey as part of a research project that, as Bridge, we want to be doing this year. I'm really interested in looking at brand and culture, but looking at it from all of these different aspects. From an anthropological point of view, sociological point of view, physics, biology, because we're talking about people. And people are influenced by many things, from our anthropological to our history, to our art, our antiquities, to our storytelling, to our music. There's so many things that influence us as people. So that's something that Bridge will be doing, and I just want to bring that up again, because the more people that get involved in our culture survey, the better for me. I want to get some really rich data, and all of you will receive the data back again. So the more people that you can pass it on to, please do that favor for me, because if we can get some really great rich data, we'll put together a research report, and everybody who participates will get a copy of it anyway. Also, one other quick reminder is Scott will be giving his slides to us. So anybody who has now joined this new world of taking pictures of slides all the time, please don't. It seems like a new thing that's happening in lectures where half the time somebody's got their camera up, they're taking pictures. So please don't worry about it. You'll get a full copy of the slides. You don't need photos of them, and you'll have that within 48 hours of us finishing here. So just wanted to let everybody know, because it seems to be something that people are doing nowadays. Who's seen it happen? Who is going to do it? I'm watching a few of your faces going, no, not me, no. Okay, so when I started thinking about Scott's talk, I read his excerpt from his book, and we do have copies of it here, and they're available for you to take away tonight. And started thinking about storytelling, because Bacardi is such a fascinating brand. It has such a rich history. And the two words that I begin playing around with is this evolution versus revolution. For me, that's like past and future. We evolve as brands as we evolve as people. We evolve as a species. And as we evolve and we grow, we create stories. And we create our history every single day we wake up. You are creating history. By the things that you do, by the people that you communicate with, by your fascinating and great ideas. As I was saying to the group this morning, to look around a room, and you look around this entire room, and you could pick up any object out of this room that you want. And it all began as an idea in somebody else's brain. That didn't make itself. Somebody thought about it and made it happen. And as I began to look at that, I thought, I like playing with this word, evolution versus revolution, because it's really all about brand passion. That's what we want our people and our cultures to have. People are truly passionate about our brand. I mean, passion, when you really begin to look at the word passion and play with it, it's a phenomenal word. You know, people have gone to war over passion. People have written sonnets over passion. People have created artworks over passion. Passion is something that actually fuels us. And then when we really begin to think about what passion is, that's why it's so important why our people need to have passion. If you have to show up at work every day without passion, God, that'd be like being in the worst relationship, waiting for your divorce papers and still having to live there. You know, it's thinking about passion. We want that great energy and have people come into the doors every day and actually be proud, be thrilled, be excited by what the possibilities that could exist in that day. And I'm not saying every job is exciting and every job is thrilling, but that's what the job of brand is. I can't put everything.
Sorry.
I can't. I don't even know what that was. I thought it was in my head at first. And that was more worrying than it being your phone. And when we actually begin to look at, passion, I can't say that everybody needs to be passionate about their job, because not every job is fueled with passion. But I can still feel part of the purpose. It's part of something much bigger. That's where the passion needs to sit. And I love looking at the Bacardi brand as a backdrop to even looking at Bridge and BridgeTalks and my own life. Because every day is creating history. Every day is an opportunity for us to make something. And when I look at brand and I look at this kind of evolution, it still says Bacardi from the beginning to the end. But I can see how it grew and shaped and changed. But there's a common theme and a common thread throughout it. And from that, I began to think about the importance of all of us to begin creating our brand story. There's websites out there that you can go on to. You can create your own family tree. Find your history. Find your ancestors. Because that's part of who you are. It's part of your DNA. You are a byproduct of all the people who built you and all the people that you've touched and been exposed to throughout your existence. So begin to really think about, when you go back to your organization, creating your brand story. Because it needs to be created in the now. But it actually sits on two worlds. It actually sits in the brand itself and also in the culture of the people that support it. I often look at brand this way, because brand to me sometimes is very structured. Brand requires structure to stay fluid, to stay moving, as do organizations do. Because brand very much needs some form of hierarchy, some sort of structure, but culture works best when it's flat, having no structure. Now, I'm not saying anarchy, but culture works best with no structure because everybody shares an equal level of importance. I don't care if you're the managing director or shopkeep, you're as equal in a culture when you actually believe in it. So brand is the things that we project virtually, but culture is the thing that actually is the most fluid part. And I believe that culture should always have a flat structure, where we're all equal and we're all important. And I know Scott will talk a lot about that in his presentation. So take your people on a journey. Create your brand story if you haven't begun creating it. It's something that we're really beginning to talk about now in brand and culture. What is our story? When you're recruiting people, do you tell them the story of who you are? Not what your job's going to be and just the company history. Company history is great, but it's a story. It's a story that should excite people because you've traveled, your brand has traveled through diversity, it's traveled through changes. It's overcome things, and I know and Scott's going to talk about this, and when I look at their brand, the diversity and the things that you've overcome as a unit, that should be something that people today should be proud of, because it's kind of like saying thank you to everybody who came before me for everything you've given me today. Because that company wouldn't exist without all of those people that made up the brand story. So think about that. I always think that a really great brand story in the now is like being a great futurologist and a great historian. And really begin to think about your brand on two sides, where it's come from, but where is it going? And I think that's when brands get passionate and get exciting. Because the stories that you tell is the stuff that people remember. Who here likes storytelling? Yeah. If you like storytelling, it's about making things more whimsical, more interesting, not just the bland. of where we've come from. It's actually the importance of where we've come from. And interestingly enough, coming in line with looking at, I didn't even know this, which I should probably know this, but it was one of my team said, oh yeah, the 10th anniversary of Bridge is coming up next week. Oh great, I was too busy to even remember. And that was a really poignant thought for me. It's like I was too busy to remember that a company that I started 10 years ago, my anniversary was coming up and I didn't even know. That's poor. That is not very good. But it showed me how busy I was running in the now to not take a break and just say, wow, let's actually look at some of our successes. But more so, I actually looked at the changing industry. When we started 10 years ago, the stuff we talk about today in culture and brand, we didn't talk about 10 years ago. We talked about call centers, not contact centers. Remember that? When they were call centers. Who remembers call centers? Yeah, they don't exist anymore. Yeah, they're contact centers or management centers. But when we started Bridge, the industry we worked in was very customer service, sales training, and that we created an environment where HR actually had a seat at the table. They weren't just the people who hired people anymore. Over this side is the people who actually managed the storytelling. So I just began to kind of plot even over the last 10 years, not even Bridge, but from Bridge's involvement in an industry, how this industry has changed. We have massively changed from being psychologists, behaviorists, looking at from customer service to customer experience. Customer service is a little passé now. It's about the experiences that you create for your customers. And we started that about 2008, we started seeing that word kind of part to come out into the dialogue. And then we spent a lot of time talking about brand strategy in our industry. People really started putting brand out there and making sure and seeing how important it was. And then employee engagement started being talked about, organizational culture. And now today, we're talking a lot even more about storytelling and behavioral drivers, the things that really make the difference in our business. So I don't know how many of you have been around probably for 10 or 20 years in our industry, but even look at our own industry brand story about how we've changed and the importance that people now play in our businesses, where they're not just staff. They're organizational citizens. They're true citizens of our organizations, and they play a part that actually sits beyond any boundaries. And then I even looked at BridgeTalks. BridgeTalks now is 1 year old. And that's where we started. I look back at some of our branding and we have a bit of a laugh in our office because I hate this branding. And there's some pictures that we have and I shan't say them. But we actually began talking with Simon, talking about creativity, and Duncan with motivation, and David talked about service excellence, and that's kind of how we began even BridgeTalks. And 1 year on, we've got a new look and new speakers. And I actually found that really fascinating by just even looking at a BridgeTalks brand 1 year on. How much it's changed in 1 year. So how much does your organization change in 1 year? Some of you, how much does it change in a day? Because everywhere I look, I find a new story. So every day there must be a new story in my business if I choose to look for it. And then we had going through, and now this is where we are today. Quite liking this picture over here. I think people are going, yeah, I wish you'd just shut up so we could go back to the cocktail. But that's all about evolution. I can even track the evolution of the BridgeTalks brand over the course of a year. So take some now time. Take some time out away from your desk and out away from your business and think about what is our brand story? What makes us who we are today? What is that evolution of where we've come to? What is that revolution, that movement in my business that's going to drive us forward? What's the next best thing? You know, if we actually think that today we're complete, God, how boring would that be? We're just part of the process, part of the evolution to the next greatest thing. So really begin to think about your brand story, because I believe that that is part of who we are as HR specialists, who we are as brand representatives, as culture ambassadors, is really to be a bit of the storytellers. So celebrate your successes. There's probably hundreds of them all around your business. Go out and really collect them. Because I think when I spoke to Scott earlier and I mentioned this, he said, yeah, because we might just forget them. Yeah. In real time, how much information do we get in real time? And I'm not talking about tweeting and texting and emailing. Real life information. How much real life stories are created every day? And how many are lost? Because we're too busy not even to know it's your 10th anniversary. I remember setting up Bridge, I never thought I'd make 10 years. And then when it came, I didn't even know it. That's bad. So think about that when you go back to your businesses. Every single day is an opportunity to find success. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, any questions? Get you warmed up? Good. Because I wanted to talk just to get people thinking about brand story, because Scott, who's going to be speaking next, has got an amazing brand story to share with us, an amazing people experience to share with us. So I'm going to pass you over to Scott Northcutt, but before I'm just going to come over and sit with you.
All right.
No, sit with me. Come on, buddy. Let's just sit over here.
Watch some TV.
We watch some TV. How about that?